Also want to get everybody sort of back together on what the biggest takeaways were from being in the dugout with Farhan today.
And it was in the dugout. It wasn't in the press room which I thought was surprising. It was obviously intentional, and I think Farhan wanted it to be maybe a little bit more informal than formal.
Probably.
It wasn't carried live on TV, and it wasn't one of these things where, I mean, it was announced, but it wasn't a very formal thing.
Right. I mean, it was the end of the season State of the Union address. If they put it this way, when they hire their manager, that's going to be inside.
Exactly.
That'll be inside. Last time I was inside with them was, Buster's retirement. That was in a different portion of the inside, but that was inside. This was, I think they wanted to keep it informal. Probably because they knew there were a lot of questions, and it could have gone a certain way. And they wanted to keep, the vibe, if you will. They wanted to keep it as relaxed as possible. One of the things I found his answer interesting. I asked him if he was open to a manager who had not managed before.
We are open. I would anticipate that we interview a couple of people who don't have managerial experience. One of the things we talked about last week, which I think will factor into the choice, is, we want somebody who can be an effective recruiter. And, as we go into free agency, again, I think we, like every organization, we want to sort of build a brand of players wanting to come here and play here, and I think the manager is a big part of that. So, there are guys who don't have managerial experience, but maybe they just ended long playing careers, and they have relationships, and they can be effective recruiters and be sort of attractive leaders for players. But that's definitely going to factor into it.
Okay, I saw two things there, and yes, I did ask it with Stephen Vogt in mind. I did.
Yeah.
Just wanted to see if he would eliminate someone like that from contention, if you will. Guys, grab line 3. I'm not sure what just happened there. I want to make sure nothing funny goes out on the air. But anyway, thank you. Anyway, I asked, would he eliminate Stephen Vogt or people like that? He did not.
Yeah.
He certainly did not. But his answer to me, I might be reading something that's not there, but going on and on about how the manager is a recruiter, a leader that people want to come play for. I thought, not a shot, it was not a shot, but I thought a window into something that I think the Giants at times in the last few years found challenging, which is that when they were going for free agents, I don't think that they found that Gabe Kapler and his presence were helping that much.
Or maybe they were actually hurting in terms of, so you want a recruiter, you don't want somebody who's going to be a negative in terms of, making your decision. And I have heard from a couple of different people I've talked to today about the Aaron Judge saga and the fact that, maybe Aaron Judge was turned off by Gabe Kapler, as well as other factors around his recruitment, wanting to stay a Yankee and all the rest of it. If it comes down to, every decision you're going to make, can my team win? How's the money? What's the situation? Do I like the ballpark? Who's the manager? And if you get down to that level and you look at the manager and it's not somebody that you necessarily want to play for, then it becomes a big turnoff because that's number one, the person you're going to have to deal with the most.
I've been waiting all day to ask you about this one because this was another answer that I found interesting.
Okay.
Most of the questions today, in fact, maybe all of the questions that were not asked by 95.7 The Game personnel were like about right now, like this week. What about the manager? Where's, who's playing shortstop next year? All that stuff.
We came strong at this presser.
There were a few of us there. I just wanted to go back to last week because I felt like a lot of Giants fans still had the question of why Gabe? Not meaning they wanted Gabe to stay. Why only Gabe? Why Gabe and not Farhan? Or have you heard the word scapegoat in the last 6 days? I bet you have. So I asked him, why Gabe? I want to know what you think of this answer. Here's what he said.
I don't mean to sort of avoid the question, but this is sort of the dynamic that happens anytime a team moves on from a manager or head coach. I mean, bear a disproportionate level of the responsibility. In our case, it's my responsibility to the fans, to ownership, to the organization to decide if a change would be in the best interest and give us the best chance to succeed going forward. And, that was my view, and that's why I made that recommendation.
Okay, so at the end, that was my view, that having somebody else in that job gives us a better chance to win. That's a very damning statement, number one. But the beginning of it where he says, look, it's kind of the way it goes. Like, the manager gets a disproportionate amount of the blame.
Yes.
We could have followed up, I guess, and been like, well, in some places, so does the GM. But
no, you heard his answer, which was, it was my responsibility to ... and it was my decision to ... which tells me he wasn't getting fired. So he went to the meeting with ownership, and they said, all right, Farhan, you got to fix this. Not we've got to fix this and replacing you as part of the fix. It's you got to fix this, which tells me that they said to Farhan, you're getting a chance to make this right. And how are you going to make this right? And so Farhan had no choice but to replace Gabe Kapler as manager. That's what I heard.
I mean,
he's not firing himself.
No, but
guys, I'll be honest. I got to go.
No, but ownership. But ownership could have.
No, but just his answer. He talked about I had the responsibility and I had a decision to make. So when he went to ownership, it was clear to me that ownership said to Farhan, how are you going to fix this? In other words, you get to fix this. And so at that point, Farhan's like, I got an idea. I say he goes.
Or he presents a new plan and they don't like it. And they say, actually, neither of you stay. They could have done that. It could have gone that way.
It could have.
And I thought the reason I asked it is because I thought there were a lot of fans out there who are still wondering, why did they get set apart? I mean, I think you were even one of them who thought like this was, didn't a lot of people think it was a package deal?
Absolutely.
And it's not.
I'm stunned that it's not.
Well, you're right. We're not going to get a clean answer as to why he's staying because he's him.
Yes. And if you play it again, just for the sake of listening to it in terms of what he says that he had to do. And that's what struck me.
And I want to let everyone know how I phrased it. Why did it fall on Gabe?
I don't mean to sort of avoid the question, but this is sort of the dynamic that happens anytime a team moves on from a manager or head coach. I mean, they bear a disproportionate level of the responsibility. In our case, it's my responsibility to the fans, to ownership, to the organization to decide if a change would be in the best interest and give us the best chance to succeed going forward. And, that was my view, and that's why I made that recommendation.
I guess
it was my decision.
My question to you would be this. Does Farhan truly believe that getting a different manager in gives the Giants a better chance to win? Or did he have to offer ownership some change? And that's the only one you can make right now.
I think they're both yeses. And I do think, based on what I heard from the entire presser today, that he feels like Gabe could have done better with what he had to work with. So, first and foremost, yes. Could Gabe have done better in Farhan's eyes? I do believe he thinks that. But also, I think that Farhan knows that the team has to get better. So, the short-term fix is bring in a new manager, and hopefully, if our team doesn't get a lot better, maybe that manager gets 5 more wins out of this group, and we make the playoffs and we're able to keep this thing going. But short of that, Farhan knows that this team has to get better.
Another takeaway that was very clear to me is Brandon Crawford has played his last game in the Giants uniform. I don't know if he's played his last game, but 2 things came out. One, Farhan was asked if Crawford could sort of become a 3-day-a-week utility guy. Farhan called that a tough fit. And then he also said this with regard to the starting shortstop for next year.
As we sit here now, we want to give Marco Luciano the chance to be the everyday guy next year. So, if anything, his call-up was slowed down by the injury he had this year. His time at the big leagues, we would have liked to see him up here a little bit more, but, he's worked his way up, earned this opportunity, and we're really excited about what we saw last night.
Okay, Marco Luciano, starting shortstop.
Yes.
Opening day next year.
Well, At this point, we would like to give Marco every opportunity to be the everyday shortstop. And he did start the answer with, at this point.
Yeah.
In other words, if a shortstop that we love pops open in free agency, we can address that. Or if we can trade for a guy, we'll do that. But as of now, we believe that Marco Luciano has the opportunity. He's earned the opportunity to be the everyday shortstop.
I mean, last year there were a ton of shortstops on the market. That's not really the case this year. I don't see them. I don't even know who would be available that's like some sort of a bopper that like, oh my gosh, you can't pass up that opportunity. Although they did that last year with Brandon Crawford on the team, and they were going to move him to third.
Yeah.
And then when they signed Carlos Correa. And then they didn't.
Well, and then he's actually still playing here in October. And his team's actually doing well. So, Correa still playing, Crawford not playing.
Farm system was something that Farhan pointed to that's much better now than it was 5 years ago. So the follow-up question there was, if the farm system's in great shape, are you now willing to use some of those assets to maybe bring in a very established player this offseason?
I think even at the deadline this year, we were very open to trading just about anybody, and I imagine we'll have the same outlook this offseason.
Open to trading just about anybody.
That one hit me a little bit empty because he said at the deadline we were open to trading just about anybody, but you did nothing. You traded nobody. You traded a bag of baseballs for A.J. Pollock, who played 3 games and was gonzo, and so ends the trading deadline acquisitions for the Giants, and then you ran the Michael Crabtree fade route from then on. So that one feels a little bit not disingenuous, because I do believe he believes what he's saying, but that one hit me empty.
I get it. Listen, I was shocked that they didn't do more at the deadline. I always hesitate in this particular kind of a conversation because I don't know what was offered. I don't know what was available. I know other teams went out and got people. I still don't think there were any landmark acquisitions for any team at the deadline this year. So without, Farhan answered a number of times like, I'm not going to make a deal just to make a deal. And so I get it. It's frustrating. I don't know what was actually available. One more for you before we go back to the phones. And this is with the next manager. Whether this is true or not, Bochy is seen as a feel guy. Kapler's seen as Johnny Button-Up analytics guy. How do you balance analytics and feel for the next guy?
Part of the detail and understanding the detail is when to not make a move, right? When to kind of stick with your guy. But that comes from sort of a complete level of preparation and understanding of who your guys are, what they need. And so I actually don't think it's inconsistent. And again, I would just, I think we need to look at everything. Our next manager is going to be largely, if not entirely, influential on how things are managed. But, I don't want to, I'm not saying, we're going to be anti-platoon or anti-opener. I mean, I said it before. It's just everything in kind of the right amount, everything that helps us win games. And if, our manager thinks, well, I understand that on paper this move makes sense, but I think, leaving this guy in is best for us in the long run. I completely respect that because, that's something that's sort of hard for any of us to know. And nobody's going to understand that better than the manager, who has kind of the heartbeat of the team.
You look like you had a hard time with that one.
That's a tough one. It's a tough one. From the team that ran out more openers than almost any other team, and a team that was almost exclusively platoon. And if I'm Gabe Kapler and I hear that, I am, shaking my fist at the radio because, now Farhan's going to be okay with me leaving a pitcher in. And, if the manager thinks that leaving a pitcher in for longer is the right move, then that's going to be the manager's call.
Yeah, well.
And that one felt a little bit like empty rhetoric to me.
I hear you. I don't think there are going to be as many openers next year because I think that one of two things will happen. Either fewer starting pitchers will get hurt or fewer starting pitchers will pitch like crap. That's the hope, at least. I don't know if it'll happen, but that's what led to it this year. Steve in San Diego. Hey, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What's up, Steve?
Hey, guys. Long-time listener, multi-show caller, first-time caller to your show, lifetime fan of Dibs, and Mark, you're growing on me, man.
I'm trying.
And I'm here. Well, I'm new to you, so I like it so far. The thing that you guys are touching on that I'm talking to is I smell something. I smell a deflation sensation here.
That's
it's like,
a buck.
Farhan was brought in to kind of reset the team, reset the salary. He brought in his friend for the coach, Gabe, the coach, through the chaos. It worked out better than we hoped last year, and this year not at all. And so, we can look forward from that and say, hey, he's now starting to turn the corner. And so we're building. The next coach is about building. And I think it's the unarticulated elephant in the room that we've reset the salary.
Steve, it's interesting. Steve, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I don't know. I mean,
I don't think that this franchise is constructed to deflate salaries in any way.
It better not be.
Well,
but that has happened across the board in baseball.
Right.
Largely because it is, in our mind, the manager's the boss. He's not. He's middle management.
Yeah.
He's the boss of some things, and it's kind of like what you said a few minutes ago, which I like, which he's the boss of the clubhouse. He's not the boss of the whole baseball operation.
Well, neither is Farhan Zaidi.
Well, he is the president of baseball operations.
Right, but if he says, let's give Shohei Ohtani $500 million, and ownership says no, it's a no. It's going to be a no from us, dog.
Right, except for from what we're hearing, they would not say no.
Correct,
They'd
but
say yes.
they are the ones that he has to knock on their door to say yay or nay.